Hello, everyone. Welcome, and we are pleased to have you for the second session of our winter Christmassy SEO webinars. Last session last week was around a wonderful of e-commerce SEO with Isabelle Mulhauser and Pauline. We'll get a new session next week, the wonderful time for content strategy with Shima Memje and Rebecca Berbel. And I'm today more than pleased to be here with Kevin Indig. And we're going to discuss sugar and spice that makes enterprise SEO nicey. To quickly introduce myself, I've been at Oncrawl almost 2 years, which is in the tech SEO history a short time when most of people that are famous in the industry started 15 or 10 years ago. But I'm on my way to learning. And therefore, I'm more than glad to be with Kevin, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, obviously.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. Good to be here with you. Thank you, Oncrawl, for having me. It's a great event. I think I've been at the last one as well. And just for people who don't know me, my name is Kevin. I've been in the SEO industry for quite a while, and most recently led SEO and growth at Shopify, or part of the growth teams at Shopify. Before that, I was VP of SEO and content at G2, and before then, I ran SEO at Atlassian. So I have a broad background for marketplaces, SaaS companies, and of course, e-commerce as well.
In a nutshell, I guess everybody knows you around. I've been myself follower of the Growth Memo, even though I didn't start it yet to listen to the new podcast. You started with Eli Schwartz, if I'm right.
Yes.
And today we're going to answer some of the questions we gathered from the SEO community that follows us. And let's roll to the first question and see what you're going to tell us about this topic. Our faces. Quick question. What are the most common issues on large-scale websites that make the biggest impact in tech SEO performance?
So it's a great question. What I love about the question is that we're already defining large-scale websites, right? I talk about this a lot, but I think there's a fundamental difference between really large sites and small sites. And so here we're talking about large sites. Let's just say, for everybody to imagine, let's just say there's a large online retailer, maybe selling several different product categories like clothes and, I don't know, toys, furniture, whatever, right? So you have a really large website with lots of pages on it. And the things that matter here, most of all, first is you want to have a really good idea of what kind of pages are indexed. So this idea of index management or index control is exponentially more important for really large sites because you have more pages that could be a bad result in Google's index. Part of that are thin content pages, maybe categories with only one product, or maybe duplicates, of course, very common in e-commerce. So duplicate content, thin content, and then just pages that don't drive a lot of traffic. And so one of the fastest ways or the most important things that I've found to do for many large sites is just to see what's the traffic distribution across all the pages. Are there maybe, is there a percentage of pages that don't get any traffic at all? And what's the action plan for them? So first of all, again, index management and understanding what pages get traffic. Number two, of course, is internal linking. I spent a lot of time in my career looking at internal linking and building models for that. And I think the interplay between incoming and outgoing links on every page is something you want to take a deep look at. And then number three, I would say, to keep it short, there's a long list, but top three for me, probably titles. I think titles are still very impactful, and often companies and people don't spend enough time optimizing and testing their titles as well. The beautiful point about having a large site is that it's much easier to do SEO A/B testing, and I found that there's a lot of potential in titles to add more, value propositions. Like in the case for e-commerce, it could be free shipping or quick returns or free returns or something like that. And then, of course, rich snippets and just making the title more click attractive. So say these three things, index management, internal linking, and title or snippet optimization are probably some of the most impactful for large sites.
So that's a complete answer with three strings, as titles are made of, I guess. That's awesome, Kevin. Let's move to the next question. And I'm just saying to the audience that, of course, we gave Kevin the capacity and power to select any questions that will or might pop in the chat if you think it's relevant enough. So next question. When you're trying to reach a new market, what are the first things you look at?
Yeah. It's a fantastic question. As somebody who has been born and raised in Germany, but who lives in the US for the last 8 years, I was able to get a much deeper understanding of the differences in markets, and so sometimes it can be as simple as different ways to search. For example, here in the US, when most people want to buy a smartphone, say an iPhone, they just Google for iPhone. In Germany, they will Google for buy iPhone. They're much more specific in what they want to accomplish, and so there are tiny, subtle differences. And since this is an SEO show, I would say the first thing to look at the market is just what's the kind of search behavior, and I would do that by translating and localizing my keyword sets. So I'd give them to a native speaker, ideally somebody who lives in the country, and see, are we talking about the same query syntax? Are people using the same terms to search, or are there different phrasings that I cannot foresee if I'm not a native or local speaker? So I think this localization of keywords is incredibly important. And then, of course, how strong is the brand in that specific market? At Shopify, for example, we had a very, very precise understanding of our brand strength in all the different markets. And we knew exactly where we have to maybe run more ads or collaborate with more influencers or just run more marketing campaigns to get more awareness. And that always had a positive impact, not just on SEO and direct traffic, but also things like backlinks and how we were covered in the media. So I think this idea of brand strength is really important. If I had to mention maybe one more, I would try to get an understanding of, are there any market specific cultural differences that will impact my conversion rates? At Shopify, for example, we also saw that of course people in Germany and Japan, they prefer to pay with cash. They have credit cards, right? But it's a different type of culture. It's a much more cash-heavy culture. And so understanding these subtle differences will help you understand why maybe your conversion rates are better or worse in other markets. So these would be probably my top three.
Yeah, so a good mix of keyword research and intent explanation, because if I understand right, some countries might be more or less explicit in what they search for, then a good mix of PR, SEO per se, and then also understanding local specifics. And yeah, that's perfect. That's brilliant.
Exactly. It's a good summary.
Moving to the next one, by the way, which was sent to me in a private message. So I hope the one that sent it is attending to the show, and kudos to him. Yearly or even bi-yearly content audits could be a massive, and are basically a massive workload for large-scale websites. How can we ensure content hygiene is done more efficiently and on the go? Because this is what was the core of the question.
Love that question. Thanks for whoever asked it. Yeah, I think what helped me in this case. First of all, maybe to say something a bit more controversial, but I'm not a big fan of audits. I'm a fan of technical work and understanding websites, but I think audits are often these big, bloated, monolith documents, right? Some people like to boast, oh, we have 100 pages in our documents and the largest documents ever. And then the reality is that when as a company, especially as a larger company, you start working on these, on implementing the audit recommendations, once you have done the first 3 items, the rest of the audit is already outdated. So, nobody asked for my opinion here, but I gave it anyway. I think the way to bypass this here is to set up constant monitoring. I think there are a few things that have an outsized impact on SEO hygiene. I would say, for example, 400 and 500 status codes, right? That's probably something you always want to be on top of. And especially when you deal with many different sites, my question is, could there be something like a Looker Studio dashboard or some other, whatever, whatever you want to use to run the dashboard? But can you monitor certain metrics on an ongoing basis, like outages, browser errors, maybe some sort of like core web vitals or page speed metric? It obviously depends on the type of site. I think somebody here in the chat asked about what about web performance and time to first byte when I was speaking about optimizing a large site. And so maybe to wrap that question into an answer here as well, I think some of the technical factors depend a little bit on what type of site we're talking about. For an e-commerce site, I would certainly measure core web vitals, absolutely. I think time to first byte is probably not as important anymore. It's probably replaced in Google's eyes by Core Web Vitals, or at least time to first byte should impact Core Web Vitals, right? So maybe that's the answer here as well. It's like very similar, and I would mostly monitor it for e-commerce sites. I think that's where it matters most. I think some technical factors are very industry specific, and Core Web Vitals is one of them. And I would wonder, is there some sort, again, like some sort of an ongoing monitoring that I can do for technical hygiene instead of doing regular audits, right? So it's more like, what can I look at every day, or maybe what updates once a week, instead of running them myself and running them manually.
Again, pretty complex and nice answer, and thanks for the jump you did on Julien's question. Hi, Julien. Okay, great. Let's move to the next one, which is you partially addressed that topic in the first answer you gave, right? But I guess people want more and more details, and maybe even secret custom workflows. How do you manage to check indexing at the enterprise scale?
Yeah, fantastic question. Cool thing is, you can now use the Google Search Console API to run the what's it called, the inspection tool in Search Console. And so I would probably, it depends on how big the site is, right? Some sites have millions of pages, probably difficult to solve with a spreadsheet. But if you don't have an incredibly large spreadsheet, then you can probably use the Search Console API to run a site inspection on every page and see if it's indexed or not. I'm pretty certain Oncrawl also has a really nice feature, so using Oncrawl could be the solution here as well. And I think indexing is part of the process, right? So if you think about the search engine ranking process, the search engine first has to crawl your site, then render your site, index your site, and rank your site. And so before I check indexing, right, I would also look at crawling. So I would use server log files to understand what pages is Google crawling, what pages is Google maybe not crawling for different reasons, and is that the situation that I actually want? And then two, can Google render all of the pages, which is still to this day a big problem. I remember we first started speaking about server side versus client side and single page apps, I mean, over 5 years ago, and this is still an unsolved problem. There's still many sites out there that use React components that Google cannot render. So I would also think about rendering. And then when it comes to indexing, just to summarize my previous point, I think part of that is the question, has Google indexed the page? And the other part is, does that page drive any value in the form of traffic or ranks? And I think these are two different things you want to check and you have to check for. And I would argue that if a page doesn't drive traffic, then there's probably a problem, except if it's terms of service, about us, contact us type of page, right? Forget about these 5 pages that don't matter, but for all others, they have to bring traffic or there has to be an answer for what to do with them. And that, to me, is also part of index management, because at the end of the day, the goal has to be to provide Google high quality pages, and a page can only be high quality from an SEO perspective if it drives organic traffic.
Brilliant. And it's also, I guess, looping with the content hygiene you just mentioned before. Again, the idea of ongoing checking through some maybe ranges, what you define, are they performing on non-performing pages, and then implement ongoing workflows to take decisions whether there will be higher or lower in the depths, or much links will they receive depending on their strengths and opportunity generation. Great. Yes, that's brilliant again. And that's also, if I may, a question that also loops with the URL inspection API, because as of today, I do believe that we are still limited to 2,000 queries per day per property in the Search Console API. So I guess also it's a good sign that users should maybe have more granularity in their GSE administration for them to overcome the limits that Google is imposing. But how do you map backlinks at a scale when the tool is limiting your exports?
Yeah, that's a big problem. So if you, the reality is that simply some sites have so many backlinks that you cannot just export them all, or you pay an incredibly hefty price that no finance department will approve. So it's a problem. And the way I would approach it is, I would probably increase the filters to decrease the amount of backlinks I have to export and just look at higher quality backlinks. It's not a perfect solution, and to be completely truthful, I don't think there is a great solution that is cost friendly to export a huge ton of backlinks. And or maybe I just don't know it. Maybe somebody can let me know if they have a good way. But at the end of the day, I think you need to filter backlinks to be just really get the most qualitative links. I think in a lot of cases, most tools have, they try to index and find every backlink, which is great. And that means there's also a lot of noise, a lot of backlinks that, are not that interesting. Maybe you have an app on an app store and you get a backlink that has a high DR, but it's kind of, diluted because everybody gets that backlink. So it's probably not that special. Or you get a lot of links from, some very low quality PR sites or spam sites. So you want to try to filter all of these out as much as possible and just simply raise the bar for what type of backlinks you're looking at. And I would argue that makes a lot of sense because typically, most of the time your competitors have very similar backlinks, right? So if you play in an industry where backlinks are absolutely critical and you have a lot of backlinks, I would say you're already at a place where you can filter for just the best backlinks, and that will be enough to give you an accurate picture of the landscape.
Yeah, because I guess when you have million of lines and different links to work on, it's a nightmare. And then digging into all of those data must be awful. I'm not yet pretty advanced in backlinks strategies or stuff. So, okay, great. Thanks again for this answer. It seems that we've been too fast, Kevin. That's the issue when you have experts and they know their topic. So do you want to maybe address one of the questions? Do you want to maybe raise a topic because the industry is strong enough to bring new trending topics regularly? And yeah, that's just you to tell. I mean, I'm your host, and it's your knowledge that we want to have. So basically,
sure,
your move.
Let's just maybe look at some questions from the chat. There's some really good ones in here, and I want to encourage you to keep asking them. So I'll go from top to bottom. One question from Aaron is our team manages 3 different news websites. We've been integrating SEO keywords, writing strong meta descriptions, and interlinking, but we aren't seeing a major growth in traffic. What else can we do? Great question. One thing that is absolutely important for news sites are topic pages. So I'll talk a little bit more about reverse engineering in just a second. But when you look at the largest publishers, say the New York Times, they all have topic sites, not just for big topics like politics, sports, economy, business, tech, whatever, but also non-hierarchical topic pages for trending or evergreen topics, right? So, for example, they would have a topic page for President Biden, right? Or they would have a topic page for Silicon Valley, or a topic page for Microsoft, right? So there are all these different entities that they build topic pages around because there's a constant stream of new news or of new material coming out. And by moving from an in-the-moment format like news, right, an article, which sometimes is just a few hundred words long, to something more evergreen like a topic page, you can preserve the organic traffic that you get. And you can like rank more in regular organic search. The thing is also that the news system from Google and the regular organic search system, they're very, very different. They work in very different ways. And so you kind of want to try to address both of them by creating evergreen content with topic pages, and then make sure that your news articles, are optimized for all the stuff that the news system on Google side is looking at. So I hope I was able to answer your question here.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because even there is a slight chance that someone will enter the homepage of a media and go up to the Microsoft topic page. By doing that, you are building like a hub of authority, and there is a higher chance that you'll be able to rank or to be more visible on this specific and any news that will be related to the central topic. So that's awesome. Yeah, that's great news.
Exactly.
Great news. No, that great info. News website.
I like the pun, Thomas. I like this. I like the pun.
We had a question. Oh, Sebastian. Hey, Sebastian is asking a question, so maybe you want to take it.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, Sebastian. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. Sebastian's a former colleague, super smart and funny guy. Um, Sebastian asks, do you suggest to fill topic pages with individual content as well? I think it's a great question. And my answer is yes. I've seen that if there is, and it doesn't have to be that much, but if there's a little bit of individual content, I've noticed it to perform better on average. And I also, while we're talking about topic page optimization, I also noticed that some publishers have a higher authority for different topics. For example, The Information here in the US, or Axios, and The Verge, they have a much higher authority for any tech topic or startup topic. So I would, if I was a publisher, I would ask myself, hey, what's kind of our editorial focus? Most publishers have that. And how can you build out especially more topic pages in these areas instead of what's trending right now? Those two are not always the same. I think there's that authority component as well. But yes, generally, whatever you can do to make the page unique is a good is a good point, is good, is worth your time. Because if you think about it, from a systems perspective, say you have 10 publishers, and they all cover the same news, because most of the time, the way that the news game works is that somebody has an insight, and then they publish that, and everybody else copies it, right? Or somebody is the first one to break the news, and then everybody else copies it. And that means that if you just create your topic page with all the news that everybody else has, then you have the same content that everybody else has. So you want to find ways to individualize that page a little bit and see if there's, is there individual text you can add, or maybe something else that could be interesting. Sometimes it's statistics. I've seen, for example, lots of, the New York Times has done it, but also lots of German publishers, they have created their own, dynamic charts of COVID statistics, right? And so I think journalism is at a point where, sometimes you want to leverage those plays as well to see if maybe you can improve the quality of a topic page. Great example here in the US that I've recently seen is with the midterm elections, where some publishers had just amazing visualizations of data for the elections that set them apart from others.
Yeah, and that's pretty funny, because I was lately talking with a niched website on tech and science news, and they were actually facing the fact that lots of new generalist websites were starting to enter the niche and to rank on thematics which are not basically their core value per se. So you say those kind of specifics should maybe focus on their core and avoid this maybe interest in trying to diversify in order to augment the reach and gamble on reinforcing the core. Okay, that's awesome. We have a question from Dave. Hey, Dave, how are you? Hope everything's good in UK. And that's funny, because Kevin and I were discussing the probability for a question like that to pop during the chat. And it's all about chat, right? So, Kevin, what impact do you think ChatGPT or larger GPT-3 and NLP AI models will have on SEO and specifically SEO teams?
Yeah, it's Dave, your question could not have come at a better time. As Thomas mentioned, we were actually talking about this before, and I did go to ChatGPT and I asked it, hey, what questions about SEO should people ask? And here's what it told me. It said, here are a few questions that people should ask when it comes to SEO. What keywords do I want to rank for? How do I optimize my website for these keywords? How can I improve my website overall user experience? Are there any technical issues on my website that are preventing it from ranking well in the search results, et cetera, et cetera? So seven really good questions, fairly well. The way that these large language models work is that they're trained by a large data set, right? So GPT-3 was trained on 175 billion parameters, which is a lot of words. It's a lot of stuff. And so in essence, these large language models don't have an exact understanding of topics. They come to this understanding in a different way, which is more the way that a monkey learns than a human learns, right? So the monkey basically just does what they see. And GPT-3 is a monkey that has seen a lot of stuff, right? It has seen a lot of different things, and therefore it's really good at mimicking. And that mimicking sometimes seems like expertise, but it's not an understanding that's based on first principles. It's not like GPT-3 has a database of terms, and it knows, oh, SEO is exactly that, and this is why. It doesn't stand the causality between things, but it understands the correlation, and that is enough to sometimes yield really good results. So when you ask me about like what impact will ChatGPT have on SEO and specifically SEO teams, I think that there, I think ChatGPT in itself might be mostly used as a brainstorming partner. Maybe something where you're like, okay, I want to quickly cover maybe 80% of a topic or 80% of an answer. I just want to see what this AI suggests me in terms of topics. So I think it's in some way a thought partner. And I used it in some of the articles that I recently wrote as well, not for my personal blog, but some other content I created. I was just like, what happens when I punch this into ChatGPT, and what are the answers? And it didn't give me answers that are that are enough to stand out, enough for people to pay a lot of attention to, but it quickly helped me to outline, okay, what are the common points about this topic, and then I can think further. So it's an accelerant. It speeds me up in a way. But I do think that GPT in general will have an outsized impact on SEO. I think we are truly at an inflection point where where AI technology and large language models like GPT and generative image models as well will become a standard in our workflow. I said that on the Contrarian Marketing podcast recently. I do think that in 12 months, every marketer will use an AI tool that they haven't been using today. I think the technology is ripe for that, and there will be very specific use cases and tasks that we can use these large language models for. For example, to find outliers, right? A couple of days ago, Google has released a new free extension for Google Sheets called Simple ML. It's a free extension that allows you to find outliers, to extrapolate data sets, to train models. And I think this is the kind of like drive towards mass adoption that will also speed up SEO workflow. So now, for example, it's much easier to find CTR outliers. I think keyword clustering will become much, much easier. Keyword research, all these things, right? Traffic analyses, they're very specific tasks that these models are really good at. And I think we truly are at a point where we can expect that to have an outsized impact on how we work. So I'm generally very bullish, right? I think we all thought that 2022 was the year of crypto, and then it turned out to be the year of AI. So a lot of exciting stuff going on in that space. And I think previously, just want to say that I think I missed a question from Aaron about what the normal average amount of views is for a page with good SEO performance. Just to quickly address that, Aaron, I don't think there's a good average amount. The way that I would measure traffic to a page is I would actually look at whether it ranks number one or at the best result possible for its target keyword. Since traffic it can be seasonal, can fluctuate, right? There are many different ways that traffic can be distorted and noisy. I would much rather look at the rank for its target keyword to say, oh, this page, not something needs to happen with this page if it doesn't rank well, or if it already ranks well, like maybe nothing needs to happen to that page. Maybe it has reached its maximum potential. Just wanted to close that question on.
If I may ask you, because interesting thing about ChatGPT-3 that ChatGPT-3 is that against the GPT-3 in which everyone was trying to generate like already ready to publish text, everybody is just interacting with this new module. And I was wondering if the methods that you depicted in the Gross Memo article around how you can, score content and identify if they are or not IA-based due to chaotic factors, etc. Do you think same studies will be reproduced on ChatGPT-3 answer? ChatGPT-3. Why am I saying GPT-3 every time?
It is GPT-3. You're right.
Why did I take out the 3? It makes me crazy, right? But do you know, and do you think that if we run the same studies and the answer it gives, we'll get the same kind of easy to flag, or due to the fact it's conversational, it might be trickiest to identify?
I think I think there's probably going to be similar tools that make it likelier, or that can tell you whether it's likely or not that this question or this answer comes from ChatGPT. And I think we're moving, moving more towards a world where the standard answer is not going to help you much from an SEO perspective, and it's much more going to be about, okay, what else can you contribute to the standard answer? Is there what's the added value or the added information you can provide about a topic. So I would assume that pretty quickly, if maybe already, I think Google is already there, where they say, okay, look, for this question, we know what the expected answer is, and we're going to look at what sites are going to add additional value or content to that answer. And then we're going to look at something like user behavior to see if that additional value is a better result than the standard answer, right? So I think we will be able to, at least to a certain point, understand if the question comes from ChatGPT, not with 100% confidence, but maybe there's going to be 50-50 or like a 70-30. But then the question is going to be much more, how valuable is that standard answer, and what else can you provide on top of that standard answer to really stand out?
Brilliant. I think it's a good way to end the talk, because we reached the end. All good things have to end, as they say. So Kevin, I'm just super happy that we had this little chat and dynamic due to the fact it was question asked. I can inform the viewers that we'll share the replays. I'll let the Oncrawl marvelous marketing team manage the whole sequencing. And do you have a last word for the session to end, or can we just wish ourselves a Merry Christmas and end of the year seasons?
Let's put it this way. My wish for everyone is that, there's no big Google updates over the holidays, and we can just all, relax and unwind. I think next year is going to be a hard year, to be honest, for lots of people out there. So I hope you all enjoy the holidays and have a good time, and all the best to you and your families.
Well, I guess it's perfect. Kevin, really, thanks again. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and please tune in for next week's session. Again, wonderful time for content strategy with Chima MMJ and our own Rebecca Berbel. Happy end of the year to everyone. A pleasure, Kevin.
Thank you, Marcus. Great job. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.